Preaching follows a basic communication model that'll help you understand almost any relationship. The parts of communication that apply to preaching are the same parts that apply to an interpersonal relationship with a friend, girlfriend, parent, younger sibling, everything. Communication is built on something that is so fundamental that it'll seem obvious to you at first, but we're going to go over each part. Now, almost any organizational problem, whether it be a church or whether it be a school or a manufacturing, really comes down to communication problems. And you'll see why we have communication problems as we look at this model of communication that is fundamental and basic to everybody. Effective communication results in friendships when communication is done well. It also results in enemies when communication breaks down. The most significant part of any organization, any family, any group is going to be how people communicate. Abraham Maslow, the famous psychologist, suggested that the capability to satisfy your own personal needs will primarily arise out of your ability to communicate with others. So let's talk about that. Communication between two people, whether it's a group and a person, or between two groups or just two friends. Communication originates with mental images. As mental images within a person arise, and they have the desire to convey those images to another. The mental images can include ideas, thoughts, pictures, or emotions. So when I say a mental image, I'm not just thinking of something that you could draw, though that can happen. It could be an idea, words, pictures, emotions, and the person who wants to communicate them is called the sender. Look at this model. The sender is the one who has the ideas and they want to convey them to someone else. Now, in order to convey the image, that's the idea or the thought or the picture or the feeling, in order to convey that, the sender must transpose or translate those images in symbols that the receiver can understand. Now, we use symbols all the time. Words are symbols. Certainly letters are nothing but symbols, and so is the collection of those symbols that form a word. A word becomes a symbol. It could be that art, which is obviously a symbol, is the way that a person conveys their feelings or their ideas. Music is also symbolic, and many people who understand music well can interpret a composer's ideas put into music that capture some of the great events of history. There are symbols that you will use, usually words, and those words then carry the image, that idea, thought, picture, or emotion. Only through symbols can mental images of a sender have meaning for others. If you never translated them into a symbol, then they can never be conveyed. And communication begins with being able to transpose or translate that which is going on inside me into some kind of a symbol that another person can understand. That process is called encoding. Encoding. Now let's go back to the model. The sender encodes. Now, the communication model continues because now that there's this encoding process, so there is this message, that which is said, that which is drawn, that which is played. Ultimately, that message is now out there. What that message meant to the sender is only as clear as is the encoding process. So the better the encoding, the better the communication, because now the message that's out there in the middle is accurate. It accurately conveys what the sender had in mind. When a person has a weak encoding, well, it's about as bad as if I tried to convey this wonderful image that I may have seen at the local park, and all I can do is draw stick people. You're just not going to get the picture. In the same way, when somebody has a poor vocabulary, their ability to encode their image that they have within them, either ideas, thoughts, feelings, or pictures, if they don't have a good vocabulary, it's going to be difficult to get a message out there that could possibly be interpreted, possibly be received. The better the vocabulary, the more adequate the message can convey the image that lies within the sender. You understand that? Now we have to look at the other side of the encoding process, and that is in order to get the message out there, this encoded image must go through some channel, a channel of transmission. The public speaking venue is a channel. Touch is a channel. Printed word is a channel. Just conversation closely in close proximity with somebody else, that's a channel. Physical distance affects that channel. Gestures, touch, clothing, expression, intonation, all affects the encoded message or the encoded image before it becomes the message. So the channel is important. Whether it's media or whether it's conversation, the channel makes the difference now. We're going to look at that. Then there is this message that is now fully encoded, transposed, or transmitted through this channel, and now it takes on a life of its own. It then becomes receivable through another channel that is accessible by the receiver. That channel is either auditory or it's visual if it's on a printed page, or it's tactile through touch, or it might be somehow watched on a television, or it's on an art form medium. Whatever it is now receivable through a channel, which then must go through a decoding process. The decoding process has a lot to do with the other person. They may have a limited vocabulary and not understand, and they don't understand the precise words that you just use to encode your image, and they don't understand the words. So apart from a dictionary, they didn't get everything. Or they may not understand art, or may not understand music, or may be bored with your cinema presentation of your image that is encoded, transmitted through some medium, and that message is out there, but the decoding process may not be adequate. And so you're limited in what is going to be conveyed. The decoding process is that process by which the symbols are now brought into somebody else's situation and finally goes to the receiver, who may be not able to receive something because of their own life experience and push it off and don't receive it, and they're defensive. Now, in this process that's called this communication model that begins with the sender, the encoding, transmission through some channel to a message that's out there in between us, which then must be received through some channel and decoded according to the capacity of the receiver, and then finally received as much as that person is able to receive it. In that process, through those channels, something is introduced called noise, interference, and we're going to spend some time talking about each phase of the communication model. You'll need to know this communication model. You'll be tested on it, not only academically, but for the rest of your life. You will understand what just happened by understanding this communication model. You'll understand whether a sermon fell flat or whether it energized the congregation, that we sometimes call a bell ringer, based on this communication model. Understand it. You'll have to reproduce this communication model, and I'm going to ask you to now write it down, draw it out, and look at one example in your own life, whether it was in a public setting where you spoke to a group, or an interpersonal setting within the family, or with a friend or a girlfriend, boyfriend. And I want you to look at what happened. There was this message. Here's what was said. But here's what it meant to the sender. And here's what it meant to the receiver, and try to understand what happened. Would you do that now? Remember, reimagine that scene where a bit of communication happened and try to analyze it. Break it down. Now, I don't need to know names, and I may not need to know exactly what kinds of words were said, but at some point the message was said. And don't just rely on your memory of what was said. Try to get exactly what were the words said, and then what did that mean to you? In other words, what did it say to you? What was the person who spoke it trying to say? Analyze one personal situation using this model, jot down some notes, and then I want you to either take a picture of it or give me a narrative of what happened. And in fact, if you take a picture, I still want you to write out a narrative, but it might be helpful to me to see your model. Write that down, email it to me, or submit it in the forum. This will not be for public discussion. It's just for me to know that you understood this lecture on the basic communication model. When you personalize it, every time we come back to this model in subsequent lectures, you'll understand it that much better. All right, go to work, and thank you. Understand communication in this basic model. Bye.